Hi, welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I am Steve Smith. My next EMP video was going to be on preparing for and surviving one, but I got an email this morning from Kurt in Arkansas. I get a lot of good stuff from you, Kurt. Thanks a lot. And he sent it a few days ago. I just read it today because I don't check my email as often as most people do. and his question was, how long would it take to recover from an EMP? It kind of goes into a question somebody else had the other day that I might kind of launch off of. And somebody asked, and I'm sorry that I forgot who asked this one. It is somebody that I regularly enjoy hearing from. But he asked what I thought the chances of China and Russia conducting an EMP attack on the United States. So let me start with that one. I'll say that the chances for that are next to nil. There would really be no reason for either of those countries to do that. First off, we're still, regardless of this trade thing that's going on, we're still a major trading partner with China. Russia still depends on us for a number of things. There would be no reason for them to want to take us out over something like this. And because they know. Now you could say, well, you could wipe out 90% of the population, and then they could invade, and they got extra people, especially China, and they need the they need the land and all now. Because if you remember the old nuclear threat, what kept everybody from launching on each other, other than good sense, was the MAD scenario, mutually assured destruction. They know that if they popped them over us and shut our lights off, we've got nuclear subs all around the world that could launch on them. And you can be sure that there are plans in place for this. These people play these games all the time, and I'm sure that the message, we might think that our government people are nuts sometimes, but they're not all stupid. And I'm sure that the message has been sent back and forth that, hey, if our lights go out, if our grid goes down for whatever reason, so do yours. So no, I think that's not a probability. I know of the situation of the satellites that go across our country every day, and we don't know what's in it. And regardless of that, I think the chances of that are very, very small. Now, the chance of a level 2, level 3 actor like Iran popping one, I think is I think there is a chance. Who knows? What the percentage is. But this is a regime, this is a people who actually wants the end times. I forget what it's called. What is it, the 12th Mahdi, the 13th Mahdi? I forget exactly what it is. They want this to happen. And when you're dealing with somebody who wants the fight to happen, regardless of, in good sense and reasonable judgment, their own destruction, they don't feel it's going to be their destruction. They think that by bringing on this final war of Armageddon, that this is a part of their theology. This is a part of their end times theology, and it has to come. And so they're looking for it. So I think that's where the danger lies. And yeah, they could put they don't have to have the high tech missile and rocket technology of the major powers. They can put them on a scud, and like I said in a previous one, pop one off the East Coast, West Coast, and Gulf Coast into Texas, and pretty much take us down. We'll see. And then that does become a problem, because then that's only us losing our grid and our power. And then, the other powers would be smart just to lay back, wait around, wait for us to kill each other off and die off, and come in and split up the pieces. So I know that's a happy thought, but and there's a lot more that goes into that, and I'm sure if any of you all want to discuss that, feel free in the comments. and it'd be a very interesting scenario. And it wouldn't be a very fun scenario, but it would be very interesting. So getting back to recovering from it, the main question is how long would it take to recover from an EMP or CME attack? Let's go with just for grins, either a CME, which would be worldwide, and or a MAD scenario where they take us out and we take them out back. So let's say the whole world's out. That's an easier scenario to deal with. The other one would take a long time. There have been a lot of people say that it would take us back to the Stone Age, and there are still people saying that. And I've said for years, no, it would not. It doesn't take us back to the Stone Age. It takes us back to early 1800s when many people lived very well. Like I said in the last one, a lot of people had lives that sucked. A lot of people now have lives that suck. It's more about the person and the life and all that than it is whether or not they have electricity and running water. Much of the great architecture in the world, much of the great art in the world, much of the great technological advances, many of them, occurred before on-demand electricity. So we can't let that, we can't think that all of a sudden we're going to be back living in caves and trying to find a bobcat to, skin and cover ourselves with. That's just not going to be the case. Even though we lose the working technology, we will not have lost the knowledge. Now, you can say that, if 90% of the affected population dies off in the first 12 months, and this is what the EMP Commission estimated, I don't know. I don't have any reason to doubt that, to question that. I don't know whether they really ran a whole bunch of numbers or just took a guess, but I don't have any numbers myself that would dispute that. So I'll go on that. And if people, you think about if all of a sudden those interdependent systems that we rely on for life nowadays, if they all go down, how are people going to survive? Well, we have enough people who just can't barely take care of themselves now. Look at the people who will just go, wacko after something like that. Look at the number of people that we have on psychiatric drugs. Look at the people that we have who have grown up with lives of, no skills, no abilities, no education. Yeah, I'd say 90% is probably a pretty good guess. It could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less. Who knows? Anybody that thinks they know is probably just taking a guess. I'm not going to. So say we have 90% of them. Now, I write about this extensively in my books. And so if anybody, if you have questions, I fully understand that. But I would suggest you go read my books, because I talk a lot about this. How do we recover? Essentially, that's what the books are about. How do we recover? And if you've read the book, you will see that they start producing energy again, hydroelectric energy, using water. Okay, the way that they did, way back before we had transistors, right? They start having hydroelectric energy within about I'm gonna have to go back through the books, a year, probably, on a small scale, within a year to be able to, or a year and a half, to be able to service a small settlement or small town. Why they're able to do this is because, a lot of the people that, now there's going to be a lot of people who, won't be around, a lot of knowledgeable people who won't be around, but it's not like all the electrical engineers will have died in the first 12 months. We're going to have a smattering of all different kind of people. And as I talk about in the reversion, there is an electrical engineer. The reason I put her there was to show how we were going to restart a recovery from, pretty much going back to pre-electricity. And up until that time, up until they start, generating electricity again, which they simply do. Like I said, we haven't lost the knowledge. It's not like we have to reinvent anything. Even up until then, they are able to live a pretty good life, and I base that on people who live lives like this that are, completely off grid and without, well, our entire country. We could say without generators, without solar. Well, they didn't have any of this stuff when they founded this country, right? They didn't have any of this stuff when they built the White House. They didn't have this stuff when they built some of the major things around the world. Go to the what is it? The Versailles. Look at that place. Look at a lot of the unbelievable structures in Europe, and they didn't do it with cement trucks and electricity. Anyway, getting back to this, so we're going to have the knowledge. It's just going to be a matter of reconstructing the physical aspects of the technology of manufacturing. First light manufacturing, and then down the road a little bit heavier manufacturing. Also, as I wrote in the books, now when I look at land, one of the things that I look for, and it is not a make or break, water is. Wherever I look for land, running water is important, because you have running water, you have energy. Okay. And there's if you don't have real good running water, there are ways around that, but it's real complicated and real labor intensive, and it's kind of the law of diminishing returns. You're not sure that it's worth it or not. But if you got a good flowing water source, you have energy. Now, the other thing that I look for, and it's all over around here in eastern Kansas, and all over through Oklahoma and Texas and a lot of other places. We're not the only place that has it. Our oil and gas wells, and I think the second or third book that it's either the revival or the renewal. I talk about how they start to open up some of the gas wells, and they are producing. Now we have an entirely new, source of energy. So, getting the energy back is not going to be an impossibility. So it's certainly not the Stone Age, and it's taken a jump from the 1840s right back to the early 1900s pretty darn quick. Okay, and that's only 100 years ago. I mean, many of us have grandparents who were, if they're still around or if they've passed, they were born in the even in the 1800s, but certainly the 1900s. Now, the thing is, the recovery also is going to depend on what kind of people and groups you have around, and I address this in some detail in the books. You're going to have a lot of different kinds of groups around. In the first four books, in the first three, I think, I kind of stayed within this area around here. I think in the third book, we got into Texas a little bit. In the fourth book, we got farther away. We got down south. We were seeing what's happening up north in Minnesota and such. But there's going to be all sorts of different groups around. Some are going to be good. Some are going to be bad. Some are going to be strong. Some are going to be weak. And the weak ones are going to be eaten by the strong ones. And if they are, hopefully they'll get eaten by a good one. And, when I say eaten, I just mean absorbed, because no small group will be able to survive against a large group if the large group is determined to take it over. Unless there's a real imbalance there between ability and equipment and stuff like that, and I don't really see that happening. We'll see different dynamics going on with police and fire and military and people of different backgrounds. What's going to happen with some of the military bases? I don't believe that it'll be the same in every one, and I address that in the books too. And that's going to have, in some areas it's going to have a major impact. In other areas it's not going to have much of an impact at all. But what will have an impact are the kind of people and the kind of groups that form from those people around. Now, I think that probably people with psychiatric problems of certain kinds may survive to in a greater percentage than in normal, so-called normal nice people, simply because you get people who are just, dog mean and without compassion. And I don't know what all the psychological and psychiatric terms are. If I had a couple of my buddies here, they could tell me all about it. You got a bunch of borderline personalities and a bunch of psychos around. They're gonna these are the people that are gonna do pretty well for a while, and also are going to be able to draw other people to them, because in many cases they are they just draw people to them. I won't get into more detail than that. So you're going to have, as you're trying to survive, as you're trying to recover. At first is the survival, and then is the recovery. As you're trying to recover and then rebuild, following a CME or a worldwide EMP event, a lot of your time, a lot of your energy is simply surviving and building it up. And then a lot of it has to be put into defending yourself. And there are going to be a lot of things against which you're going to have to defend. I think a lot of the groups are going to be large. A lot of the predator groups will I might back off of that. I don't know that a lot of them will be there. I'm sure there will be some. A lot of them will probably be small to medium size, because that kind of personality tends not to be able to be controlled in a larger group for very long, because they're made up of similar personalities. And when you have a large group of people, all of whom are kind of on the edge, it doesn't matter whether they're a dominant personality, doesn't matter whether they're alphas or betas or whatever. The alphas are going to have the strength, but the betas are going to have the conniving, and they're going to have the hurt feelings, and they're going to be the ones that break down, and when the alphas need them most. So those kinds of groups are always going to have some internal dynamics that are destructive, internally destructive to them. And what needs to be assured is that the good groups do not experience that. I talked in the reversion or the revival one of them, as the Stone Knot community is building itself. I mentioned the importance of intelligence, of keeping an eye on who you allow into your group, into your community, as you expand those communities. And communities, there will be communities spread all over the place. Not everybody's going to die, and the strong ones and the smart ones and the capable ones are going to survive to a greater extent. And so you'll have these groups that develop in different areas, and they will be groups run and populated by fairly strong personalities. And so they won't, while they will work together, they won't necessarily want to be consumed into a mass group all themselves. I'm going to pause here just half a second. I've got a noise coming up behind me, and I'll be right back. Oops, I pushed stop instead of pause, but that's all right. The guru will go in and splice it together and make it look like I almost know what I'm doing. So anyway, we're going to have these different kinds of groups. Like often happens amongst the good people, they're going to have differences of opinion. Some are going to come together, and some aren't going to want to. And I explore this again in the third and fourth book. Some are going to want larger, governmental systems. Some are not going to want the large ones. Some aren't going to want much at all when they see an opportunity to start over again. But those are the main considerations, and there is so much to this. So many, you could talk about this stuff for years as far as the what ifs this and what ifs that. And for those of you who haven't read the books and are interested in this, I do suggest you read them, because I get into so many of the details and so many aspects of really what I think could be expected, when this happens. And I do say when, because the scientists tell us it's going to, not the same ones who, tell us about global warming. uh, but I think that's it. It's not something that we're not going to be back in the Stone Age. So we're going to have a lot of, we're going to have the knowledge. We're going to be able to get back quick, and it's just a matter of keeping yourself alive until life returns to some degree of normalcy, which I expect to be. It's going to be a new normal naturally, but it will be a normalcy nonetheless, and I expect that within a couple of years. Until then, you need to be able to, provide for yourself, provide through food stocks and preparate and prepare to produce your own food. Because that's, and I know I've said this a lot of times. Other people say this, but really, it's a matter. The only reason that you have food stock is to last until food gets to you again, and in a CME situation, that means until you start producing it yourself, and that takes a while. That's a long learning curve if you've never done it. So if you haven't, get at it right now. It's a lot of fun, and you'll learn a valuable skill. So, Kurt, I hope that answered your question, and any others that you all had out there. I know there's been several more that I've said, okay, I'm going to get back to that in a future video. I don't think that was probably necessarily having to do with this. So if you do have any more questions, or put your comments down there. All of your comments are good, very thoughtful, and share what you think about these things. I'm sure that someone will read your comment and get back with their own opinion. As long as you stay nice and polite, like almost everybody here is, I think everybody will learn a lot from it. So I'll let you go with that. And Kurt, if I didn't answer that question, you just get on back to me and say, hey, you forgot to tell me this. All right? Okay. You all have a good day. Remember, like I always say, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. Well, it's that living well tomorrow that is my concern. And I don't have any desire to live in a cave, and I'm sure you don't either. So it's that preparation today that we need to pay attention to and do the very best that we can. So you all have a good day, and I will talk to you later.